people who are in spaces and fields that are different than the normal path of lawyer, doctor, engineer. There's so many new career paths that have popped up. There are career paths that people are doing that you probably never would have thought to even think about doing. And this career path, this father son duo is building a business in the world of dog training. So, coming up coming up for the next hour, we're going to be speaking with Mark and Michael Wingasson, the co founders of Dog Point, a company that is revolutionizing the way that we approach dog training. First up, we have Mark, and he has over 30 years of experience in working with dogs across North America, Europe, and the Caribbean, and he has transformed over 3,000 dogs through his specialized training programs. From basic obedience to behavior modification, Mark has built a reputation for helping dogs and their owners build stronger, lasting relationships virtually and in person. And of course, we definitely want to dive into that virtual aspect because how do you go about training dogs virtually, right? Well, we're going to be talking to them about that. Then we have Michael, who is a digital marketer and an entrepreneur himself, who is making sure that dog owners worldwide can access Dog Point's cutting edge training solutions. With his passion for both technology and pet care, Michael is helping bridge the gap between expert training and digital accessibility, ensuring that Dog Point reaches owners no matter where they are. Together, they are redefining dog training in the digital space and in the Caribbean using online platforms, virtual coaching, behavioral science to help pet owners out worldwide. So, whether you are a dog lover, a trainer, or just love to hear these great conversations with these amazing individuals, definitely want to tune into this. Michael, Mark, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and joining us here on the digital world. How are you gentlemen doing?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure to be here.
Lovely, lovely. Well, I know you guys have been making a whole lot of noise over the past couple of months. You have been doubling down. All of a sudden, we're getting a lot more dog content, or at least dog training content, than we have ever seen before. So you guys have really been, doing well over the past couple of months. But how's the new year been starting off for you?
January was strong.
January strong. Nice, Mark.
Yeah,
How's it starting?
great. I love what I do. So to me, it's every day is Christmas. I just enjoy working with dogs and training dogs and transform dog owners.
Listen, I don't think people realize how much work goes in to behavior modification and training some of these dogs. But you know what? It's
Oh
some of the
yeah.
most exciting. It's some of the most exciting stuff. It's some of the most exciting stuff when you actually get to witness it. So before I actually moved to before I moved to Trinidad, I was actually apprenticing as a dog trainer, and it was because I had my dog Bronx, who was a Rottweiler, and I used to bring him for training. And the guy that I used to go by in Toronto, he used to work with Toronto police dogs, and he also used to work with the Army's bomb dogs for bomb detection, narcotic detection. They also used to train dogs for bed bug detection, right? And again, when you're coming in and you're just seeing some of those unique sessions happening, like the work that goes into narcotics training, again, even if you're not really into dogs, just watching and seeing the psychology, all the things that just go into it. Absolutely amazing. I'm sure people by now have seen the Israeli, or I think it's either the Palestinian or the Israeli armed army dogs that when they're using the Belgian Malinois, you're seeing all those training videos of them Malinois jumping 30 feet in the air. Again, just a lot of amazing things when you talk about dog training. But again, let's get into that conversation with you. So, Mark, just to kick things off with you, because you started this thing out. 30 years in the dog training business. How did you get started and why dog training?
Right. So growing up, my uncle was training hunting dogs, and he later also became a judge for hunting trials. And
Mm-hmm.
he did the most amazing things with his hunting dogs. He had a dog walking around the house with a raw egg in its mouth without it crushing it. And I was always fascinated as how do you do that? How do you get this done? How you get a dog to run into a forest and look for an injured animal and then bark when you find it without actually trying to eat it? How you know, how do you do that? And so I tagged along with him and had him teach me. And then that was from age 5. And age 7, he put a leash in my hand. He said, okay, train this. And walked away
Wow.
and left me with the dog. The dog was dragging me across the yard for a day or two. And he says, don't complain, figure out a way to stop the dog from doing it. And then, you know, I end up using a long piece of leash and put it around a lamp pole and had the dog pull against the lamp pole instead of dragging me. And for the dog
Yeah.
to go forward, I had to feed some leash backward. And I figured it out. And it never stopped. It never stopped. I always kept asking why. I was one of those annoying children that always asked why this, why that. And he was happy to answer.
Yeah.
And so it never stopped. And then our own dogs at home, I started working with those dogs and started teaching tricks. And so it just mushroomed from there. And even in my work life, I did other jobs before, but I was always training dogs for friends and relatives and their friends. And so it was always there, and it just became stronger until one day I said, okay, this is what I want to do.
Wow. Mike, now you're working this business, you're in this business with pups, you know. Usually you have people who run headfirst into the family business and the other people who run away from the family business. So for you, why did you decide to tag along in this journey and really become a foundational member of this entire duo? Why did you decide to get into dog training?
Well, similarly to Mark, I actually started my exposure from around 8 years old, and he
Mhm.
basically imprinted me just like a puppy with dogs. And the first large breed dog that I ever really worked with was a huge black Russian Terrier. The dog was as tall
Ooh.
as me, right?
Yeah,
Not an easy
yeah.
dog to handle. Of course, he didn't let me solely handle the dog, but still, it was interesting being a kid handling a dog that big and that
Yeah.
powerful. And I basically went with him to work over the years. And growing up, especially I would say in secondary school into university, I always had a knack for photography, videography, and editing. And
Right.
then I was always a nerd with computers and software and all these things. And then I would say in 2020, 2021 is when I started following you and really started to see all of the different kinds of ways of doing business internationally from you, right?
Wow.
And I started learning and stalking all of the content that you were posting. And it was in January of 2023. I told dad, it's like this way of doing business, if we want to scale and do it internationally, there's no way we could just stick to the current model. We have to do it in a way that we can access everyone anywhere in the world and do it in a way that's actually effective. And I also, before I left, I was doing business in Form 6 in secondary school and in university. So I combined that existing business knowledge with all of the courses that I was taking and the stuff that I was learning from you and salespeople like Jared Best Mitchell, and sort of culminated everything and just taking workshops after workshops after workshops. And there's also just trial and error. You have to see what works and what doesn't work. And I would say we saw the biggest change when we jumped on LinkedIn last August, so August 2024. That's after Jared kind of buffed me for not joining LinkedIn already.
Hmm. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. But yeah, so for you, it's is it what keeps you motivated in this? It's just a marrying of being able to work with dogs, the technology, and really showing how you can kind of scale this business up. Is that what kind of keeps you going?
It's not just motivation. Motivation is one thing, but with this type of business or most businesses in general, there's discipline. You have good days, you have bad days, but you always have to show up not only just for you, but for your clients.
Mm,
And with a very
mm,
technical business and in the way that we're doing it, it hasn't been done in the Caribbean. So obviously there's going to be some first time challenges. that we experience as Caribbean citizens. You know, not being
Oh.
allowed to do these things this way because of your location and having to find another way around and etc. etc. And yeah, and I personally find, even though sometimes it may be stressful, it's very self-actualizing. I get to work with dogs. I love that. I get to do business. I love that. I get to do social media. I like interacting with people. I get to do all the like website development, editing, all that. I love that. So because I get to do all these different things, sure, it's overwhelming at times. It's hard work. It may be tiring, but I don't ever have a moment where I feel like I don't like doing it.
Mm, I agree. I agree. And there's
Mhm.
so much. I think I think because you get to in the dog training business, you get to work with some of the biggest personalities in the dogs,
Oh yeah.
and some of the biggest personalities in the people. I remember getting brought on a job, and I remember the door opened up. We're talking to the owners, and I saw this big black thing just kind of walk past in the hallway, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what is that?" And when the dog actually came over, it was a 8 month old black Newfoundlander who was, and she was a female. She's about 120 pounds, and the thing was just massive, just absolutely massive. And what will always stick with me is when we started to walk her, like, okay, she's trained, so she wasn't pulling on the leash and whatnot. And they joked, the owner and the guy who I was working with who was training me was like, if she ever decides that she wants to go somewhere, you can't stop her. He's like, there's no way you can stop her. And she saw a squirrel and she didn't even run. She just decided to just take some steps toward the direction of the squirrel. And I went with her. There's just so many fun things that you guys encounter
Yeah.
on your journey. So again, when we bring people on, I like to bring people on who are doing different careers that people don't ever really think about. How does somebody go about becoming a dog trainer? Because I mean, it's not like you just wake up and you could whisper to dogs. So how does one go about how does one go about becoming a dog trainer?
Okay, so first you have to have a passion for animals or dogs in particular.
Mhm.
That's you start with that, and then you have to acquire some knowledge, and it's usually some early exposure that plants the seed for that. And then seeking knowledge, really, it never stops. You always learn. You know, I will be very old and still learn something about dog training simply because that is my passion in life. I will always be interested in what's out there and what's new and, what do other people do, how they go about it, how can I translate that into my online sessions? Because it's
Yeah.
one thing to do something physically. It's a much different kettle of fish to translate that into something digital and something online. That can be extremely challenging at times, especially if you see something happening that you want to kind of stop right away, but you can't because you're not there. So, so you want to jump, through the camera and actually do it, but you can't,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, but and that is how we kind of learn to specialize in doing this by necessity, really, right? Because you have to then, okay, you work with dogs, you know how to train a dog, you can take a leash and create magic, but in an online session, you have to get the owner to create that magic, who is not a trainer, who does not have that knowledge. So now you have to try and translate the skill into layman's terms to an individual who was never exposed to it, and then they have to translate that back into the hand and the leash to the dog. So there's a number of challenges there. And because of COVID, we got
Mm.
some exposure in trying to accomplish that. Some of it in dog club for the club members, and then okay, there is something there. This can be done. And so day and night, basically, you dream about how to do this. When you're awake, you think about how to do this. While you do it, you think about how can I do this better. What other ways can I bring that knowledge to the client?
Mm,
Yes, the last client got it, and the dog responded to it. But is there a better way of doing it? So we're always trying to improve, always trying to translate. And I like the word translate because that's what it is. You have to translate everything into a different language. You have to translate a physical skill into a virtual one.
yeah.
And then it has to be translated back from that into a physical skill. So when you train a dog and you have the leash in your hand, you get a feedback from the dog. Virtually, you don't get that. But
Correct.
also, you have to, as a trainer, you have muscle memory. You do things automatically that you now have to explain. You now have to explain to the person why they need to do this and why they need to do this quick and in this manner, which is not always easy because the client does not have that muscle memory. The client does not have that knowledge. The client does not have an idea as to why it needs to happen.
Correct. The client might also have a fear of reprimanding a dog.
Yes, or just quote unquote brainwashed into not doing it because you must never stress your dog, right? There's no living organism goes through life without some level of stress.
Right.
And animals learn from stress, right? They learn. If something does not work out for me, then I stop doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas we humans are the ones that try the same thing over and over and hope for a different result. Right?
Insanity right there. Yeah.
Yes. So dogs don't do that. If something doesn't work, okay. I'm not doing it.
And move on. Yeah.
Yes, and move on. So and we have to use that to get a dog to stop doing something. I can be very nice with food or toy reward with a dog and teach them something new. No problem in that. That is 95% of what we do. Right? Is to teach something new. But for a dog to stop a behavior is something entirely different. You cannot feed a dog into stopping something.
Right.
So for instance, the example that you brought with the very large dog and the squirrel.
Yeah.
You can stop the dog from doing that.
Correct.
Right? By giving the dog a choice. You can go after the squirrel and drag me along like a flag in the wind. Right? But then there's a consequence to that. Or you can ignore that squirrel as much as you would love to go after it, and then you get a reward.
Yeah.
But it's not the reward alone that makes the dog stop going after the squirrel. It is the negative consequence to chasing that squirrel that is initially stopping the dog. Then, when the dog has made the decision not to go after the squirrel, then we give the dog a reward.
Right.
So we have to translate things like this to dog owners. We have to explain that, right? There's a lot of things that as trainers we take for granted that people know because they have a dog that are not there. As far as the dog, they don't have that knowledge. So we have to assume every time we do a session with a client or a new client that the assumption is that they don't know anything about training and dog training.
Yeah.
And so everything gets explained. Right? And we pride ourselves on being capable of explaining what needs to happen and why and how it all connects to clients in a way that they will understand. So if I, for instance, know that what a client does professionally, I try to use scenarios out of their work life to compare it. Use
relatable.
Yeah, use relatable analogies. That often goes a long way.
Now that brings up a question, Mike. I want to bring you in. what is the importance of having a trained dog? Because we in the Caribbean, I mean, we get dogs, we have a yard, the dog lives outside, does whatever it wants. We don't really ever put two
Mhm.
thoughts into having a trained dog. Why do people need a trained dog?
Well, honestly, it's two main reasons. One, for convenience, for your convenience, so you don't have to stress or be impacted by your dog's misbehavior. And then two, it overall provides a higher quality of life for your dog, for the both of you, as a matter of fact. Because if your dog does what's right and they get rewarded for it, and then you aren't bothered by them misbehaving, then everybody wins. It's as simple as that. Then you can actually take your dog outside. You can walk with your dog. You can have family over. You don't have to worry about your dog being an inconvenience or a source of stress. It turns from that into being a source of joy. You can come home and look forward to relaxing with your dog, spending time, things like that. So that totally transformed the relationship.
I agree. I think we all know that the number one of the top problems that dogs do that everybody could relate with is the jumping, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have guests that come over, maybe you're in your work clothes or in some fancy clothes, and the last thing you need is an overly excited dog jumping all over you, happy go lucky, but ruining your outfit. So
Oh yeah.
when you're thinking about the quality of life for your dog, as you said, and the safety for your dog, but also the safety for you, because we
Mm-hmm.
also have scenarios where you have rather large dogs in the house, but you also have a grandmother living in the
Mm-hmm.
yard. And I've seen it with my own eyes because we've had a dog that's jumped on my grandmother and threw my grandmother down. But these are scenarios that happen all the time. So for the people that are listening, when you're thinking about dog training, it's not a matter of if you should, because that's going to create a safer environment for you and a safer environment for the people that you're coming into the house with. That being said, how do we go about, or how do you guys go about building trust with clients in to building that trust with clients so that they actually want to work with you to go about training these dogs? Because I feel like when we think about dog training, again, people just it just doesn't come second nature in the Caribbean that dogs
Mm-hmm.
need to be trained, right? So how do
Right.
you guys go about building that trust that you guys can get the job done and that people should want to go about training their dogs?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Mm.
yeah,
Mark, go ahead.
so for instance, you had brought some great examples with the jumping, but you also have a dog that needs to go to the vet. So by creating content that explains those things, so when you take your dog to the vet, you don't want your dog overly stressed. You want your dog somewhat socialized with the staff. You want your dog to be comfortable going to the vet and being touched and being handled, so that you don't have to put a muzzle on the dog and everybody is afraid of your dog and doesn't want to see you. You know, so
Yeah.
you have to, by putting out content that explains things like this,
Yeah.
people then go, oh, this makes sense. And then if they repeatedly see content that explains stuff, at some point it sinks in. Maybe we should train our dog. And then so you build trust over time with the clients. There's some clients watch our content for months and then one day decide to contact us. So
Mm.
yeah, I've been following you for 6 months or 3 months. I have this problem with my dog. And that's how it starts. That's how the conversation gets going. And that is how you build the trust over time by putting out useful content, to steal a phrase, right? because
Absolutely.
because people might not think about that, but then come across
Correct.
a video that mentions this and it's like, ooh, I never thought of that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the aim is to educate dog owners.
Yeah.
That is the aim of all the free content that we put out, is to educate dog owners. And then out of that is what builds the trust. And then out of that, people say, hey, I need some help with my dog.
Mike, you've
Mm-hmm.
been doubling down on the digital marketing over a while now. So
Yeah.
when you're thinking about how you go about creating or producing the content for the company, you know, what are some of the thoughts that go into the type of content that you guys create from your perspective?
Okay, so what I do is I pay attention to the needs, problems, and solutions that we provide to our ideal client profile. So
Mm-hmm.
we typically deal with high-end professionals like lawyers, doctors, engineers, CEOs, etc. And they tend to be they tend to have a very hectic lifestyle. They travel a lot. They don't necessarily have the time to do this and that and the other. So you'd find, like as Mark said, over weeks and months, they would have been watching our content where we slowly tackled, in their view, slowly tackled this problem that they have, that problem that they have, and like, oh, it makes sense. And then you could even see on the LinkedIn recommendations on Mark's profile, where a few people have said, I saw this video from Mark and I actually tried it and it worked. They didn't even train with us yet, but they saw his content, they tried it, and it actually worked. And you need to also pay attention to what's going on in the industry. So I have to pay attention, along with Mark, we have to pay attention to what's currently going on in our industry. And I pull a page out of Hormozi's book
Mm-hmm.
where you have to give, then take. In order to build
Mm-hmm.
trust, you have to prove to people why you're a credible source of information. Otherwise, you aren't going to build that trust. And you also have to show not only that you're credible, that you're honest, and that you're transparent, and that you also hold yourself accountable, because all those factors go into the potential customer seeing you as trustworthy and why they should give you their hard-earned money.
That's a
And
business sermon that he just gave. Mark, come in.
yes, there's one thing I want to add to that too is you also need to show your work to build trust. So it's not just about talking about it, but actually have content where you take a dog from point A to point B and show how you do it, so that people understand. Yeah, so I've heard him say this before. Now I've seen him do it, so I know he can do it, so he can help me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that goes a
What?
long way, because our industry is filled to capacity with people who are only talking, but they don't show their work.
Yeah.
You know,
And at the end of the day,
and it's like any other product. Sorry, it's like any other product, right? If I wanted to sell you a fancy car, I put it in front of you so you can see it.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
know, and then you go ooh and ah, and then you want it. So it's similar to dog training. You show the work, and you show how you can transform a dog, and how you can get a dog to do certain things, and then people say, "Oh, I want my dog to do this."
what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys come across when it comes to dogs and their owners?
Where to start? Um, it's a lot. It's. I think a lot of people, when they hear, you know, correct your dog, they're thinking, they're going in their mind, they go straight to abuse, and right, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, a correction could be a little tug on the leash. You say, "Hey, stop that." You know,
Yeah.
that's a correction. But the word is so blown out of proportion in the industry that people think, "Oh my God, what is he going to do to my dog?" And so once you explain that and people actually do it and say, "Oh, this is not so bad," you know, they have this aha moment. And then the dog responds to it and stops something. And then they say, "Oh, yeah, he's good now." No, not quite. You need some more, but, you know, you're getting there.
Yeah.
You know, baby steps. You know, everything builds on each other. So it is you know, putting that across is a bit of a challenge sometimes. Then a lot of people, oh, I had dogs for 10 years or I had dogs for 20 years. And
Oh, those are the best ones.
yeah, and okay, you had in those 20 years, you had what, 4 dogs?
Mm-hmm.
In the same time frame, I trained 2,000. It's like,
Mhm.
you don't know what you think you know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So start fresh, because a lot of what you may know is so outdated, and training has evolved so much since then that you really have to start over from scratch. We'll give you an
Mike.
example. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
As
ahead.
an example, me growing up in the 70s, everything was compulsion. And then at some point in the 80s came positive only. Either one in isolation doesn't really work very well. But if you combine the two, you correct the behaviors that you don't want, and you use positive reinforcement to create the behaviors that you want, you get a pretty solid formula.
Yeah.
But that evolved over time.
Yeah.
And if you look at video footage of dogs competing in dog sports 20, 30 years ago, and you watch recent ones, it is day and night in how the dogs perform.
Yeah.
Because dogs are bred differently to a large extent. So the genetics is different that you're working with. The drives are different. And the techniques are vastly different. So,
Yeah.
we get much better results in a shorter space of time.
Mm. Mike, what is one of the biggest challenges that you see that has you holding your head and bawling when you come across it?
I would say I have a few big ones, but one is definitely small dog owners. Oh boy, they think the
Hold on, stick a
most.
pin. Stick a
Yeah.
pin, right?
Mhm.
As I was coming home to
Mhm.
get here, I saw a lady pushing a dog stroller, 2 chihuahuas in there, and I just laughed because I knew I was coming into this conversation. And first thing you say, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, as small dog owners, a lot of them indefinitely treat their small dogs like babies. They never want to correct them, they never want to set any boundaries, and they think that just because the dog is tiny, they can't do any damage. Let me tell you, we've seen some small Maltipoos, some small Chihuahuas, Yorkies do some serious damage. Yeah, they're small and they're short, but they could rip apart your ankles. They could rip open your calf, and not only that, it's physics, right? Pressure is force over area. Because they're tiny, when they bite, it's actually more surgical than some larger breed dogs. So they can do some serious damage, especially around small children. And
Mhm.
because they have never been trained or have any boundaries set, they have this stereotypical bratty attitude, and they feel that they rule the world, and they always give you this side-eye stush look, like from Legally Blonde. Right? I would say
Yeah.
that. And another big issue is lack of accountability. Some owners are in serious denial that they are actually problem. The dog could easily be fixed sometimes in like a few sessions, but they're the one delaying the progress, and we tell them up front, right? I mean, we try to say it as kindly as possible, but we tell them up front, you are wasting your own time. You aren't making any changes that you're supposed to make. You're wasting your own money, and you're frustrating your own dog. You are the problem, not your dog. Your dog is clearly doing it for you. Your dog is clearly doing it for your wife, for your son or daughter. Your dog is just not doing it for you. So clearly, it's you. You are the problem. And a lot of people give us this look when we tell them not straight to their face. But you have to. That's part of being an ethical and good business. You have to tell the customer when they're doing the wrong thing, because then you're wasting your time as a business owner and their time as a dog owner. And that's
Mm.
that's especially in the, I would say, I mean, I'm not trying to dog the Caribbean, but especially in the Caribbean, that's more of an issue than with
Yeah.
Europe, Asia, and North America. That's a
Yeah.
big, because we have this sort of I'm trying to find the right word. But a lot of Caribbean people from all islands have this kind of notion that they know everything. It's not unique to any one island.
I
but
know, I
it's,
know, I know, I know,
Yeah.
I know, I know, I know, I
yeah,
know.
yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the typical. No matter which Caribbean island, is always I know.
I know.
Yeah,
And there's also some misconceptions, right? So
Yeah.
people believe because the dog is stepping in front of them and snarling and barking at people, or the dog is just protective over me. When in truth and in fact, the dog is scared out of its mind because it never got any guidance growing up, doesn't know what to do, and is hoping that that behavior makes people go away.
Mm.
Right? So especially with these
Yeah.
smaller dogs, they come in front and yap, 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 and behave all aggressively, but they lower the front and they're actually retreating while they're doing it
Yeah.
because they realize you're not going away. So it's not working. And
Yeah.
so they panic a little bit. It is an insecurity in the dog that is oftentimes created by the owner not telling the dog right from wrong. Dogs need a
How?
framework. That is how they learn, right? They
Yeah.
need to learn how far they can go. They will push behaviors. And the dog is expecting pushback from its owner and leader. But if the pushback does not happen, they keep going, but then it creates this vacuum in which they're operating, which is very confusing to the dog, and it makes them very insecure because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that level of insecurity then often translates into some form of aggression because it's like, I don't know what to do here, but because I'm confused, I'm getting very defensive. And so I'm just snapping at everybody and keep them away. That way I feel safer.
How big of a problem is it when people don't take into consideration the breed to match their lifestyle and what they want out of a dog?
Oh, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. That can have very big impacts. So
Talk
if
to
you
us. Break that down, because a
so
lot of times we get dogs based on look. So, like for example,
Mhm.
everybody loves the look of a husky, and you
Right.
always see people with huskies that don't seem to know how to properly take care of the husky because they don't match that lifestyle. But break that down for us.
All right, so I'll give you an example. So you're working 9 to 5, you come home very tired because you have a demanding job. So all you want to do is, have some dinner, watch some TV, and go to sleep. But you watched John Wick 3, right? And now you want a Malinois. And right? Because you watch the movie, you like the breed, so now you want this dog. And you come home from work and the dog has completely destroyed your apartment. Right? The couch is no longer there for you to sit on. Right? What you were thinking of cooking for dinner was pulled out of the fridge, right? And it's all over the floor, right? Chaos. And you get very frustrated and you want to scold the dog for doing this, but it's not the dog's fault. One, too much freedom too soon, right? You need to confine the dog when it's a puppy to begin with so that you don't have those things happen. Two, your lifestyle is not suitable for the type of breed. Now, if you are a person that loves to hike, jogs every day, sun or rain, because you're a fitness fanatic, and weekends hike to this waterfall and that place and up that mountain is your thing, then this breed would be perfect for you because they don't overheat easily and they're super active and they're athletic.
Yeah.
So for the 9 to 5 person, a calmer breed would be much better.
Mm-hmm.
A dog that is naturally somewhat lazy and is just happy to see you when you come home and wants to snuggle on the couch with you when you're watching your TV. So you pick a breed that is more suitable for that.
Yeah.
So that mismatch between huskies have a very dense double coat that is a lot of maintenance work and a lot of grooming goes into that. And if you do not have the time for that, then you should not get one. also the husky as a breed is not suitable for this climate to begin with, because you have a dog that wants to sleep outside in -40, and you have that in +34 with 80% humidity. That is a breed that wants to run. Their life consists of running, but they cannot fulfill that need because they will overheat. So you have a perpetually frustrated dog on your hands that can't get the exercise needs fulfilled because it's impossible to do it in this climate.
Should we have like a prohibited list of dog breeds that we shouldn't have because of the climate?
Theoretically, yes. And I say
Mm.
theoretically because we live in a country where everything gets circumvented. So it's a theoretical exercise. We know there's a lot of dogs coming in here illegally from outside, and we know from where. And, you know, officials are aware of that too, but, you know, unless they catch them on a boat, they can't do anything about it. And so it's happening. It's happening. And
But
it's
and
at this
to
stage.
me, it doesn't even make sense, right? Because let's use husky, because husky is probably one of the best examples that we could use, right? The husky, the exact same husky, when put in a Caribbean climate, is not the same dog when you drag him to Russia or Canada and you have him outdoors in the cold in the climate that he wants. So for me, why would you even want to get, like, if you like huskies, why would you want to get the dog and you don't, or you're not going to even get 40% of what that breed is all about just because you have them in the wrong situation, the wrong climate? Like, why would you even want to put the dog through that?
Yeah, a lot of times people view dogs as some lawn ornament, right? It's a trophy. The husky has become a fad dog. Huskies love their freedom more than their owner. Okay? That is why so many huskies escape. Because they want to be out there and explore. They want to run, right? So they find ways out of the yard. It happens all the time. There's almost every neighborhood in Trinidad has this one household where the huskies escape all the time. And there's a
Wow.
reason for that. Yeah? They're just not meant to be here. It's not a
So
breed that is suitable for this climate,
facts.
right?
For
You
the
wouldn't.
people, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's just how you wouldn't. You bring a hairless Chinese crested and have that dog somewhere in Saskatchewan, right? Unless you put 4 layers of clothes on the dog, right? So
It's a mismatch.
yeah, you know, that is, and it happens all the time, and it happens also with breed temperaments. You know, some people have very sweet chihuahuas. I'm not saying no, but the majority is some pocket demons, right? That you need to rein in. You know, and when you have a dog that is a little pocket demon that has that typical temperament, right? If you don't give the dog a little correction when they're out of line, they will bite you as the owner. They will have no qualms about biting you. And then you can't even handle the dog. How are you taking this dog to the vet? You know, how you do anything? How you bathe this dog? How do you, and people don't think about those things. And that is when problems arise.
Yeah.
You know, these problems luckily can be fixed, but it is the I always say 5 minutes of Google could have told you that. You know, people will research something that they buy on Amazon for 3 hours and shop around before they purchase and put it in the cart, right? Or have it in the cart for 3 weeks thinking about it before they purchase. But when it comes to dogs, I like this breed, I want one. And the following day or the following week, they have one. You know, and then when the problems start to develop as the puppy gets older, you see, my dog is doing this, and my dog is doing this, and this dog is so stubborn, or this dog is this. It's like, not really. You know,
That's really what the dog is. And
that is
when
how
you
that is how this
see
breed is.
that is how the breed is. I remember on a going on a training. We went with the lady who had 2 border collies, and I kid you not,
Mm,
after working with them, I was like, I would never have a border collie. Not because they're not amazing dogs. What on earth would that dog would drive me crazy.
yeah,
Because you
yeah,
don't live that lifestyle to
Mhm.
appease that dog. And if you don't have that balance, the dog is just going to do whatever happens. Whatever happens, right?
yeah.
Mike, for
Mhm.
you, what are 5 breeds that you see in Trinidad that people
Hmm.
should not have? 5
Hmm.
breeds that people should not have in Trinidad.
All people or just some people? Like people who can't handle them.
Um, people, yeah, let's add them in there. All people. Let's go all people.
Whew. Wow. Okay.
Okay, no,
So,
actually no. Let's go with people that can't handle them. That's a little bit
okay.
easier.
Yeah.
In terms of people that can't handle them, definitely mastiffs as number one.
Oh,
Tons of people get mastiffs and cannot handle them, and mastiffs are a powerful breed. Second one, Rottweiler. Right? Rottweiler. A Rottweiler is a wonderful dog if you're the right owner. Right?
Yeah.
Wonderful dog. But if you're not, it's gonna be dangerous and a disaster. As Mark said, and as you said, the husky. What's a fourth one? Let me think.
Malinois in the
Yeah,
wrong
Malinois.
hands.
Yeah,
Oh,
Malinois.
yeah.
Yeah, Malinois. A Malinois is like a dog on crack with their level of
I
energy.
I got a call where a lady has a Malinois puppy. So, well, the dog is close to a year, and she can no longer use her back porch. So I got there. It's a 70-year-old lady with
Oh
with
no.
an ailing husband, and the son thought it would be a good guard dog for his elderly parents.
Oh no.
So imagine you spent your whole life working and building a house, and now you're retired and you want to sit on your backyard in a launch chair and read a book, and you can't do it because of the dog. You know, talk about a mismatch.
Oh my
What
God.
part made it? What part in the thought process made it a good idea to give your elderly parents a Malinois? You know,
Oh
come on.
my God.
You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. The dog threw her down so many times. It's a miracle that she didn't break a hip. You know, it's crazy, and yet it happens all the time. People who are first time dog owners have a male Rottweiler. You know, talk about a dangerous endeavor. You know, if you don't Rottweiler, I have Rottweilers. I love Rottweilers. I live and breathe Rotties. Just my favorite breed on the
Yeah.
planet. I will have
Yeah.
Rottweilers until I die.
Yeah.
But I know that in the wrong hands, that is very dangerous. If you have a confident male that's a little pushy and you don't know what you're doing, this dog will maul you
Yeah.
and will not think twice about it, because that dog, okay, I'm the alpha and, you know, I'm your leader now. You know?
They're testy. When they are ready,
Yes,
they are testy.
yes, yes. But if you know that, and if you know how to deal with that, and you raise them correctly, they're the most loyal, wonderful dogs on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
if you don't have that skill set to have a dog like this, you shouldn't have one, or acquire that skill set while they're still a puppy. You know,
Mm.
I don't blame anybody for falling in love with a breed. And Rottie puppies look
Yeah.
like little
Yeah. Yeah.
teddy
Yeah.
bears, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but then seek the help. Acknowledge that you're a little out of your depth, and seek the help required to make this a successful venture for you, so
Yeah.
that you get to enjoy your dog and don't have him locked in a kennel day and night because you don't know what to do with it. You know,
Yeah.
My
And
and
it makes a difference. Go ahead, Mike.
The fifth breed that I wanted to say, well, it's technically two, is the pit bull slash bully, and there's a technicality with this last one. So I've met and I've had a super sweet pit bull. When they're bred how they're supposed to bred by modern standards, they're supposed to be nanny dogs. They're supposed to be loving. They're supposed to be sweet. They're high energy and are difficult to deal with in that sense. As well as, especially with the bully. The bully was actually meant to be more friendly than the pit bull. The bully was bred to be a nanny dog. It was bred to be this wonderful ball of joy. But because of unethical breeding throughout the world, not just the Caribbean, because of unethical breeding, we see this highly unstable pit bulls and bullies. So when you see this ferocious bully that wants to maul everything in sight, that's a mixture of horrible, unstable genetics, as well as lack of boundaries and correct training by the owner. It's irresponsible owners who patronize unethical backyard breeders that encourages this problem worldwide. So when you are a responsible person and you get a properly bred pit bull that's supposed to be how it's supposed to be, then it's an okay dog. You still need to be a certain type of owner to own it. But for the most part, I would say in most cases, especially in the Caribbean, you end up having, unfortunately, the former of highly unstable dogs. Because we have clients, like you may have seen me post on LinkedIn, a bully named Luna, right? One of our clients, Luna. She is the sweetest bully I have ever met. She lives for affection. She is a greedy dog and she loves affection more. When Mark and I reach, she literally runs all the way from one property into the next property where we are, and all the way into the back at full speed. She's literally panting like crazy when she reaches because she went full throttle nonstop. But all she wants is love. All she wants is love, and her owner is the perfect type of owner for her breed and for her characteristics. So that was the last breed I wanted to touch. The last,
and that's perfect, Now let's flip the script, right? Let's name some breeds. What if you're looking for a good companion dog? You are a full-time worker, 9 to 5. What are 5 breeds? You guys can both chip in on this together. What are 5 breeds that you would recommend? Somebody who's just looking for a companion dog. They work a 9 to 5. What are some good options that they should be looking at?
One is a nice golden retriever. That is one breed. A non-working lab, because in Labradors you can get working labs that are actually used for hunting, and non-working labs. So a non-working lab, a golden retriever, there are some versions of Dachshund that can be easygoing. Some versions.
Emphasis on some.
Even some shepherds. So if you have a full working shepherd, maybe not. But if you have an average German shepherd, they can be energetic when required, but they can also just hang out with you.
Yeah.
Right? You get those variations within almost every breed, right? You get the more energetic ones, the less energetic ones, and it all depends on what your breeder is producing. So going to the right breeder has a lot to do with this, right? What other breeds?
I personally have 2 with the gigantic asterisks of proper breeding, right? I would say the Frenchie and the Shih Tzu. Once you have the right training done from early, they are good on the smaller end of the spectrum house dogs to have. You get some ones, I find, especially with Frenchies, you get one on either end of the spectrum. Either gets one that's a couch potato and lazy. They have some personality, but with training, it's fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you
yeah.
have some Frenchies that are high drive. But the good thing is, because they're so small, you could help them burn out that energy right there home in your house. You don't have to go anywhere, when they come home from work, just like a 15, 30-minute session of tug of war, and they burn through the
Yeah.
day. They're cool with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, listen, those are good because I think too often me and one of my good friends, we just see people and how they treat their dogs. We have far too many people who should not have any dogs. Point blank period that have
Mhm.
dogs, mistreating them, and it's just painful to see. Now, the reality is we are in Trinidad. There's a lot of activity happening. People are kind of living in fear, right? Somebody has asked about, okay, before I ask my question, somebody has asked about poodles. Oh boy, oh, toy poodles.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Because
so toy poodles are highly energetic, and when raised correctly with rules and boundaries, are wonderful dogs. But
mm,
when I say raised correctly, you have to have some rules and boundaries from small growing up,
yeah,
because otherwise, when they get frustrated, they can be quite nippy,
yeah,
and not because of fear, but because they just is a way of ruling their owner.
okay,
They can be very manipulative that way,
Yeah, they're
right? Because
hyper smart.
yeah, they're very intelligent. So you have to have some rules for them. But they make good apartment dogs because they're small. You can throw a ball in the house and play some tug of war to deal with the energy level, and you can teach them a lot because um, they're very intelligent and they don't shed. So
Yeah.
which is good. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're also hypoallergenic.
well, they don't they have hair, not a coat.
Right.
So for those of you who have allergies, toy poodles is definitely going to be a good one for you, especially if you're living in an apartment. Now, question: what about the people? I was going to ask. We're living in Trinidad. There is a level of fear that people have, a good, healthy fear, I should add. And now they're looking at protection dogs, which is why Malinois are getting the call. Even though they're looking for protection, people are still ending up with a lot of the times the wrong dogs for
Mhm.
them. So
Mhm.
if we're talking about the person who is working 9 to 5, they're not home during the daytime, but they still want to have a dog that could provide some level of security for the home. What are some good options for them? Asterisks would be with training, but what would some good dogs to look at be?
Um, some of the rotties, with the preamble that they need training, right?
Yes.
So rotties, German shepherds. German shepherds have the capability, but they're not quite as hyper as Malinois.
Yeah.
In most cases, I should say. There are some working line shepherds that come close, but again, it's know your breeder. Know what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a confident shepherd that has some drive, but is not crazy high in drive.
Yeah.
That's what you will be looking for. And Malinois tend to be a little nippy, especially when they're not sure about something. They're confident dogs, but their nerve strength is not the same as in the shepherds. So if they're not sure about something, they are strictly a bite first and ask questions later kind of dog, right? Even with the handler. But German shepherds are a little more forgiving if you as the handler make a mistake. So they're easier for a non-trainer or non-expert to raise. So you know, I would, in terms of the balance between protection and skill level, I would say German Shepherd because they're not an expert in anything, but they're good at everything.
Mm. Those are two pretty good options because I mean people are looking for dogs that can, offer some level of protection in the home. But if what if we're not looking for a dog to protect, more of a watchdog, somebody who's just gonna make a lot of noise, be very alert. keep people on their toes? Are there some good small breeds that would make some good watchdogs
Yeah,
that
Pompek.
people could look at? A pump.
Yeah, yeah, Pompek. If it's noise, Pompek.
They'll make some noise for you.
They will make you noise for it, right?
Tongues too.
I've actually
Yeah.
seen it. I've actually seen it on a farm, well, a ranch in the US where the owners have a combination of dogs and animals for security. So they have the guardian dogs, right? For the actual protection. They have a herding dog for the animals. They have a dog for noise, and then they actually have a barn cat that actually goes on the fence post or on the perimeter and is in night watch. And then the cat alerts the dogs of like, yo, I need you here.
That's a pretty sweet setup.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
That's
It's amazing
that's-
to watch.
now. Well, I know we're running short on time. Talk to me about how you guys go about doing the virtual training session. So if people do want to work with you, what does a virtual session with you look like?
Okay, so in terms of the training aspect of the virtual session, it would be finding out from the client what it is, the problem that they have with their dog, or if it's a puppy, just okay, let's do some obedience with the dog. Here's where you start. And then we have a combination of how we put that across to people to show them where to put the hand with the food and all that. We will either demonstrate that on one of our dogs, or I have my little assistant Klaus here, where I can show on camera repeatedly where to put the hand with the food and how to manipulate the dog, right? So that they get to see it. And then I will ask them to do it with their dog, and then as they do it, give them instructions on what to change. And we're taking it one step at a time, and that is how they learn how to handle their dogs and work with their dogs.
And then there's also the post-session experience where we provide them the link to the Zoom recording because it's a live Zoom session. And then I transcribe the entire session and I make a PDF summary for them so that they can also read. Because some people prefer to watch the video, some people prefer to read, depending on the age or just somebody's style. They will prefer either one, or they like both. They would like to consume both because people consume content in different ways, like you always say. So, and a lot of clients have actually expressed that they specifically love the fact that they could both watch the replay as well as read, all the bullet points of the mistakes they made, how to fix it, and the homework for next week. Because we also give our clients homework for the following week or the following session.
Another aspect is also that, for example, you have a couple, and while one may do the training session, the other one might be at work. So when the spouse comes home, they can watch the video and see what was done. So they can also be involved in the process of practicing with the dog.
And be on the same page.
And that is incredibly important because you'll have one owner doing the correct thing and the bad habits don't go because the other owner is not following the guide. Now, what are some tips that you can give people for those who are looking to get or adopt dogs from a shelter?
Know before you go in what it is you're looking for. And my advice, if you're looking to adopt from a shelter, is this: have a conversation with the shelter staff. Tell them about your lifestyle. Tell them what you're looking for, and let them bring a dog for you, because they know the dogs in the shelter better than you. A lot of people want to go in the back to the kennels and see the dogs and then choose a dog that might not be suitable for them. But if you have that conversation with the shelter staff and let them bring a dog that they think will suit your situation, and it's oftentimes a much better match.
What I would like to add to that is what you could also do if you have a relationship with a trainer that you trust is it's worth spending money to get them to come there with you and do a temperament test on the dog that the shelter staff are recommending, because the money you spend on that one essentially session for your trainer's time could save you a lot of money in stress and unexpected vet bills.
And these vets ain't cheap.
No,
These vets
nowhere,
ain't
nowhere,
these vets ain't cheap.
especially in Canada.
Oh, my mom, every other day I just hear complaints. I have two final questions before we wrap up. When it comes to nutrition and food, that's always a conversation that in the Caribbean is very interesting because for one thing that I hear about a lot here in Trinidad that I mean I don't think I've ever really seen it in Canada, but they swear by it here, is you have owners that are only giving their dogs dog rice, right? Boiling rice, giving their dogs that. Like, what are some nutritional things or nutritional strategies that you should be telling that owners should be abiding by? You know, what are some good things they should be consuming? Is this dog rice that a lot of these owners are boiling and giving their dogs? Is this something that they should be doing? Should they remove it from the diet? Should they minimize it? Talk to us about the nutrition of dogs.
Okay, so the rice in itself, while rice is not in itself harmful, it's not enough nutritional content. And it's
Mhm.
often used, dog food companies use rice, for example, as a filler to make the
Yeah.
bark to make the bark cheaper. And as a result, have less nutrients in. So it's a little bit like with us humans, right? Doctors tell us to eat the least processed food in order to be
Yeah.
healthy. And oftentimes, people feed their dogs the most highly processed thing they can find in a bag. So a dog will not be as healthy. You know, it is not, I don't want to engage into this battle raw versus kibble because it also sometimes not everybody wants to handle raw food. And I
Or could
understand
afford
that.
it. Or could afford it.
My thing is if you feed kibble, feed the best quality kibble that you can afford.
Mm.
That is as good as an advice as I can give. If you want to go beyond that and you want to formulate your own food, do your research. There's tons of information on the internet where you can find out what you should be using and what you should be feeding to balance the dog's nutrition in the long term, right? There are animal nutritionists that are out there that can be consulted on this, that can give you a meal plan even. You know, so there's everything for everybody out
Yeah.
there. It is a matter of going out there to seek the knowledge about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, a big thing in the Caribbean with regards to what people feed their dogs is people need to stop feeding their dog cooked chicken bones or cooked bones in general. That is
Mm.
not good for them. A small cooked chicken bone could actually rip the intestinal lining and the dog could bleed out and die. It's not good for them.
So, folks, all them KFC bones you're giving these dogs, please stop.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes,
Where
people.
does go ahead?
Yeah, people always say, yeah, but pothounds eat KFC bones all the time. And yes, they do eat it because they're hungry. But how many times have you seen the same dog?
Mm.
Not all dogs on the side of the road were bounced by a car. Some
Yeah.
some died there, you know, bleeding out internally.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
so
Wow. You know, you're very right about that. You don't always see the same dog. You're very right. Where my final question to you is, you know, where does Dog Point go from here? What's next for the father and son Dog Point duo? Where are we going from here?
well, Dog Point is young, and we intend to grow it, and you know, grow it as far as we can take it. That is really the right answer. You know, we want to take it as international as it gets, and to take it as far as we can.
And we want to be the number one choice for online virtual trading. So anybody mentions or thinks of online trading, they immediately think Dog Point.
That's good. And folks, if you have a dog, you need training. Whether the dog is small, whether the dog is big, the amount of times people hate coming to your house because your dogs are sweet, but guess what? They jump all over you, and that behavior is not welcome. There is a dog, one of my neighbors has a dog. The dog is a playful dog. I have nothing bad to say about him. But that's what's also wrong with him. He's overly playful, and you can and as soon as you even make eye contact, that's it. He is through the roof energy, and he is gonna jump all over you. And in the days when you don't mind playing with him, no problem. But guess what? Half the time you're not trying to play with him.
He has
And
no
he's jumping
boundaries or
all over
impulse
you.
control.
There's no boundaries. And the first thing they like to do, and again, they're playing, they're jumping on you, you turn your back, they nip at your ankles because they're trying to play. And you don't realize, because it's happened to me once, but you don't realize their teeth are so sharp that even when they just clip your Achilles
Oh
in
yeah.
that in that play, the pain and what could happen if your Achilles gets ruptured by a playful bite from a small to medium-sized dog. Doesn't have to be no big dog attack. These dogs can literally clip your Achilles in just playing with you. So training for these dogs is essential. Everybody should be looking at some form of at least basic obedience. We're not telling you to go and train the next John Wick dog. Just
Correct.
basic obedience.
Yeah, just the basics. Yeah.
Basic obedience. So that way, your dog lives a healthier life, your dog lives a happier life, and you yourself are able to enjoy your dogs and your dog's company. And again, the dog doesn't have to be locked up every single time people come to the gate. Nobody wants that, right? That being said, where can we learn more about Dog Point? I need the website, I need podcasts, I need YouTube, I need everything. Where can we learn more about Dog
Okay,
Point?
so the website is dogpoint.pet. That's DOGPOINT.PET. Dogpoint.pet. You can also view our content primarily on Mark's LinkedIn. LinkedIn, right? Mark Wengasson on LinkedIn, as well as Dogpoint USA on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And our podcast is the Dogpoint Podcast on all podcasting platforms.
So you have a lot of information that you guys can go and consume, get familiar, consume all the free content. If you are thinking about dog training, chances are everybody that has dogs, your dog is doing some stuff as something as basic as jumping on the guest. If that is a behavior that you are experiencing, you need dog training. Okay. That being said, I just got a message in. One of the reasons that people don't always think about dog trainers, they're thinking about expense. What does like a bare minimum, like basic obedience, what do expenses look like? Is this something that people can't afford? Is this only for the people on the western side of town? What does dog training prices kind of look like? Give us a ballpark.
I would say, okay, you have to weigh what you view as expensive. You can't look at dog training as just a regular expense, right? Because it's important. It can protect you and your dog in terms of your safety and health. It can prevent your children from getting mauled. It can protect other people. And most importantly, if you do what you're supposed to do, you will save your money. If you do what you're supposed to do and you start when you're supposed to start, it will actually end up being cheaper, right? And us in the Caribbean, we've also been spoiled by people undercharging for dog training. So we have this false sense of what the price really is. But let me tell you guys, you go anywhere in the US, Europe, Canada, Asia, dog training is expensive compared to what you experience in the Caribbean. I mean, in the US and Canada, for an in-person session, you're looking anywhere between 250 to 300 US per session, which is another reason why we also specialize in virtual, because we don't have to commute and you don't have to commute. It's cheaper on both of our ends.
Yeah. And that's a big thing, because there's a saying in Toronto that all dogs are liabilities. Because
Yeah.
anything could happen, right? At any given, and all it takes is a split second, and you're getting sued because
Oh,
your
yeah.
dog attacked somebody, jumped on somebody, hurt somebody, and again, it could be innocent. It doesn't have to be malicious. Not every single person getting sued from a dog-related situation, it was a mauling. You do have some
Mhm.
big friendly dogs who don't know their own strength, who are knocking people over. You definitely want to get your dogs trained. Mark, Michael, thank you for taking time out of your busy day and joining us on the digital world. A conversation about dogs on Carnival Friday. Again, we all have these dogs. We all have dogs. Having this conversation was definitely needed because again, we you guys see all the problems that people are having.
Oh yeah.
We're having a
Yeah.
lot of problems. We're
Yeah.
having a lot of problems. So thank you for taking the time and joining us on Digital World. And I'm sure we'll be speaking to you guys more later on in the year.
Okay, great. Thanks for
Thank-
having us.
Thanks for having us. And yeah, anytime. Just say the word.
Anytime. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Digital World. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Digital World after this.
This is Freedom 106.5 FM, 106.5 FM. Your solution for current affairs and talk. Join